Alone and isolated, the human mind concocts horrors more grueling than the monsters in the wild. Reality contorts, identities fade, and morality? Well, what morality do you expect when savagery reigns supreme? In this classic Lovecraftian horror film, Cold Skin 2017, directed by Xavier Gens, we see a collapse of civilization, a corruption of soul, and the loss of humanity when faced with loneliness and chaos. This French-Spanish science fiction horror film, based on Albert Sánchez Piñol's book of the same name, tells the tale of a monster and a master far away on the cold shores of an uninhabited island. Let me warn you, this is not your average green chubby monster that smiles and dances in musicals. This is real horror, the stuff of nightmares. So without much ado, let's dive into the waters where mysterious creatures crawl in the dark. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. New beginnings. Alone in the wild. The story begins in the year 1914, when a young Englishman sails to a remote island in the South Atlantic as the new weather observer. On reaching the island, he realizes that his predecessor is missing. Only a middle-aged man named Gruner, serving as the caretaker of a lighthouse, is the sole inhabitant there. Gruner seems dead inside. He doesn't seem to have taken a shower or shaved in 1,000 years. He gives zero ducks about walking into the balcony naked in front of his colleagues. He gives one-worded answers, and all he really cares about is tobacco. So what happened to the other guy? The previous weather observer. Typhus, says Gruner. He probably died swimming, but no body was ever found. His answers are so sus at this point that you'd wonder, what is he hiding? Anyway, the Englishman doesn't have to deal with this weirdo, given that he has his own cottage to stay in. After settling in, he explores the island. The visuals are honestly breathtaking. While the film was shot on the Canary Islands, it does capture the essence of a near-Arctic climate. You see water flowing down the rocks like a fountain, and steamy hot springs looking pristine against the peachy sky. Then there's the blue waves crashing aggressively against the cold, round rocks in daytime, and the moon shining threateningly beside the lighthouse at night. Little does our hero know what Lovecraftian horror lies amidst this serenity. He soon notices weird rock patterns near the shore, but what can he really do about it? He'll have to wait to find out answers to the myriad of questions that cloud his mind. At night, in the candlelight, he comes across the diary of the missing guy, Aldor Vigeland, who was here even last year. He had a beautiful wife, whose picture he always carried amongst the pages of his diary, which recorded his experiences on this island. The diary journaled the unique flora and fauna of the island, kind of like Darwin's Origin of the Species, published in 1859. But 50 years later, Aldor scribbles that Darwin was wrong. Law of the wild. Survival of the fittest. Suddenly, the Englishman faces an attack from strange creatures he had never seen before. He shoots at them, but the creatures keep haunting his den until he strikes a fire, which accidentally burns down his establishment. But for the night, the terror is over. What are these creatures? Did they have anything to do with the creatures he saw in the journal? Was Aldor attacked by these ruthless beasts? Next day, as he sets out to explore the island, he meets one of them. He would have shot it had Gruner not intervened. The duo strike a truce. The Englishman wouldn't kill the creature, and Gruner would help him survive the island. Fair enough. As for the creature, Gruner reveals that the creature is a female one that he has befriended, although it's more likely that he had enslaved her, keeping her like a pet for his amusement. More importantly, Gruner begins to call the guy friend, so from now on, we'll call him that. As night falls, they brace up with ammunition and prepare for another gruesome attack from those monstrous sea creatures. As they climb up the tower, Gruner butchers them savagely, but Friend freezes. Instead of pulling the trigger, he retreats out of paralyzing fear and faints. Naturally, Gruner is mad at him when he wakes up the next day. Gruner doesn't want weaklings like Friend, who's more of a liability than an asset for Gruner. Consequently, he cooks up a plan to lose the guy. The next night, he locks Friend in a balcony with nothing but an axe and a gun to fend for himself as the creatures gang up on him. All night, he sits there, listening to the massacre out in the wild, pretty sure that he wouldn't find a trace of Friend anywhere. But to his surprise, Friend was alive, covered in a pool of blood from the beast he had killed all night. In his eyes was the look of a man who had gazed into the abyss of death, with death gazing back at him. Friend knew that Gruner wanted him dead, and Gruner knew that Friend knew it. But out in the wild, only one rule prevails: the survival of the fittest. A Lovecraftian choice. As days pass by, Gruner and Friend take turns keeping watch at night. While Gruner remains harsh to the creature, Friend tries to be nice to her and calls her Anerys. One day, when Friend spots a passing ship and tries to send a signal, Gruner thwarts his attempt. A confounded Friend wonders why Gruner refuses to return to civilization. For Gruner, there just isn't any civilization out there, preferring to stay in the naturalness of his barbarity instead. Gruner betrays Friend once more, when the latter recovers crates of dynamite from the sea floor. Gruner tactfully cuts his air supply and leaves him behind. mind, until Anerys comes to rescue Friend. That night, as the creatures attack en masse, they blow up the shore with the dynamite, sending ripples through the rocks, while Gruner kills the barely surviving sea creatures the next morning. Friend wonders if they were right about the creatures and their savagery. They seem to be similar to humans, but without language and existing in their own kind of civilization. Gruner reveals that the reason Anerys never leaves him, despite all his grueling abuse, is because she owes him her life. Since he freed her from being trapped in a net in the sea, she has been eternally grateful to him. Ironically, Anerys leaves him the very next night, which crushes Gruner, who cannot accept the fact that he's been abandoned by her, or anyone for that matter. He completely crushes Friend's attempt to come to a truce with the creatures, killing them until Friend stops him, and reminds him that he is the Aldor Vigilant. Yes, Friend comes to believe that Gruner may actually be Vigilant. Confronted by his own barbarity, with memories of a civilized past and a beautiful wife, Aldor cannot face this naked truth. In a trance, he walks out of the lighthouse where thousands of creatures were waiting to exact their revenge upon him. How the tables have turned. Friend sits inside, listening to the massacre out in the wild. A few months have passed and a new weather officer comes to replace Friend. But Friend now lives in the lighthouse, taking up Gruner's role, behaving like him, talking like him, refusing to leave the place, and saying that the previous guy died due to typhus. Wow, that really came full circle, right? Anatomy and evolution, physical features, strengths and weaknesses, habitats, food habits. When the creatures first attack Friend, it slithers a hand through the crack in the door, and in the faint yellow light of the candle, we see that this is a slimy amphibian, with webbed feet that look pretty muscular. It had dark black nails studded on the tips of its bluish dark fingers. Growling like a baby tiger, they make monstrous sounds that would make anyone pee their pants. Friend manages to catch a deadly glimpse of this creature and sees hollow eyes shifting their focus onto him. Wrinkled and marshy, the creases on their faces make them look straight out of hell. As blood lies splattered on the cabin floor, you may at first wonder why Gruner alone survived these terrible creatures. Can they not climb to the top of the lighthouse? They did crawl on the floor and climb onto the roof of the cabin that night Friend tried to hide from the evil beasts. Bald and skinny, two of those creatures spring up from the sea only to bang on Friend's door frantically. When they fail to open the door, they shove their arms through the window panes, breaking the glass, desperate for a kill. Even a couple of gunshots can't keep them away, and it's only when Friend accidentally burns the whole place down that they retreat. Being sea creatures, it's only fire that can keep them away, I guess. As for Anerys, she has beautiful blue eyes, almost turquoise in daylight, and Friend later tells Gruner that creatures like her have two pairs of eyelids. One pair is normal like humans, and the other is a translucent pair that helps them in diving. As amphibians, they can survive both on land, in small pools, hot springs, and in the sea. When she swims with her webbed feet joined together to form a functional tail, she looks like a mermaid, human from the top, fish from the bottom. As Anerys attacks Friend with a threatening growl, we see her white pointy canines adapted to tearing through flesh. In fact, we see her tearing into weird sea creatures as food, while Gruner and Friend have normal soup with boiled potatoes. But she doesn't know what's really edible. She once tried to eat a candlestick and later put a chess piece between her lips. It's only when Friend offers her a bowl of human food that she hungrily devours it, a move that totally pisses off Gruner. Gruner has even clothed her in some kind of jute or wool. Maybe he got a hold of one of those stray sacks from the ship and put it on her. She actually looks pretty cute with black ribbed veins across her head surrounding her tiny ears and barely opposable thumbs trying to grab things like a human baby. Unlike mammals, their bodies are hairless. They don't even have eyebrows or eyelashes. Their sunken noses and bald heads make them look like Voldemort ripoffs. Their noses actually taper toward their head where it sinks into a hollow crevice that makes them look pretty angry. Kind of like a default angry Harry Potter villain without cheesy dialogue and a sly wand. No prize for guessing that they can't speak. If they could, I think half the problems in the film would be solved. Anerys, behavior, history, and relationship with Gruner. As Anerys sits on her knees, crawling like a pet all the time, Gruner calls her harmless and unique. She's actually terrified to her guts and bows down to her master. Clearly, these are wild beasts, but Gruner has tamed this one. You know what? It looks pretty disgusting when she runs her slimy tongue all over Friend's bloodied hand, kind of like a dog. But this makes me wonder, maybe she has some antiseptic antidote in her spit? So why doesn't she try to escape? Gruner says that a dog never leaves even the cruelest master. He says that she doesn't bite, but Friend has already noticed the mark of struggle on Gruner's shoulder, to which Gruner says it was just a one-time thing, and he taught her a lesson. He even says something completely tangential to prove his point. It's the still and silent sea that drowns the man. I mean, what does that even mean, dude? Friend calls creatures like these hungover species who evolve on their own, isolated, and are a kind of evolutionary stalemate, becoming neither amphibian nor fish nor mammal. It's very anti-Darwinian, as his predecessor scribbled in his notebook. Darwin was wrong. But Gruner knew, didn't he? He was the first to figure it out, after coming to the island, greedy for name and fame. These are demons from Atlantis, toads and infernal beasts that shun light, human or divine. Anerys' painful singing, which calls her mates to the lighthouse, is quite a sight. It's noise to the human ear, but Gruner thrashes her into singing harder. It's a trap. He knows it, she knows it, but her fellows don't. They crawl up to the tower only to be butchered with guns and axes. With time, Friend catches Gruner committing bestiality. The film implies a disturbing and exploitative relationship. So hold up for a second. Anerys is basically Gruner's sex slave at this point? Now that's some ducked up level shit. Friend is absolutely disgusted and wonders how Gruner can get close to her and not be repulsed by her cold skin. Friend's theory is that these fascinating beasts have some sort of Arctic fish genes which help them maintain the sub-zero temperature in their body. Anyway, Gruner continues to abuse her as her nose is bloodstained and lips bruised. When she finally escapes, we see her standing upright, confident, muscular, almost like a queen. Her kid trusts Friend and the pack comes for a truce.
Get down!
The ultimate question, civilization versus savagery. You know what fascinates me the most? It's the question of intelligence. And that brings us to our final question. Are they savage or civilized? And what does it even mean to be civilized? To be human and enjoy human privileges? What separates the human from the animal? Is it language? Is language the only means of communication possible? Is it the sense of community and camaraderie? I mean, look at it. Gruner is the one alone and isolated, abusing an innocent creature, keeping her hostage, mistreating her and killing her mates. He's the real monster, while the beast shows more humanity than him. She can't speak, and yet her voice calls thousands of mates who come to rescue her. I wonder if she's even singing or just howling out in pain. Maybe it's Gruner and his human biases that make him believe that her terrible cries are her beastly way of singing. She's supposed to be dumb, but it takes only a couple of seconds for Friend to explain to her what a boat is, after which she leads him to the wreck where they discover the dynamite. Wouldn't you say that her power of comprehension shows her intelligence? She also shows emotional intelligence, and maybe she isn't capable of romance either. Remember that scene where Friend and Anerys bathe together in the hot spring, getting kinda close? Then she guides him out of the water after Gruner betrays him and leaves him to die there. She cares, and she's shown this time and again. She even hunts starfish for the group to eat when the astral summers fade away into the harsh, snowy winters. It's actually Gruner who's incapable of empathy. Marvelous verdict. In the end, we wonder if it's Gruner alone who's the monster here. What about the officials who come to the island only once a year and don't even try searching for the missing person? They dump a new weather observer on the island every year, leaving him to his battles. Gruner had a Christianly wed wife he refused to return to, choosing to stay on the island, embracing utter barbarity. Even if he chose Anerys instead, he's incapable of showing her the love that a partner deserves. Gruner, on the other hand, doesn't show even basic empathy, care, or concern. Friend's transformation into the new Gruner is a chilling reminder of who the man actually was and the monster that he has become in his survival against crushing loneliness and isolation. With that, we come to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe to Marvelous Videos. See you next time!